Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webcast, an overview of MemSQL for media analytics. My name is Jennifer, and I'm going to be your moderator today. Before we begin, there are just a few housekeeping items to review. This webcast is being recorded, and you are currently in a listen-only mode. You may submit any questions you have throughout the webcast via the Q&A or chat function in the lower right corner of your console. You can also follow us on Twitter at MemSQL or live tweet us during the webcast using hashtag MemSQLWebcast. We will address everybody's questions towards the end of today's presentation. After the webcast, you will receive a follow-up email with a link to the recording and slides. If you wish to contact us, send us an email to team@memsql.com. So let's begin today's webcast, an overview of MemSQL for media analytics. Today, we're going to talk about how MemSQL can collect and analyze data from millions of devices and users in real time to support digital and media communications organizations. We'll be sharing how MemSQL can enable the heartbeat for real-time monitoring and response to media delivery, share how real-time media applications are driving customer satisfaction and revenue, and share some different customer use cases on how they're using MemSQL to drive their media strategy. With that said, I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Mike Boyarsky. Mike is MemSQL's Senior Director of Product Marketing. He has over 15 years experience working with database and business intelligence technologies with expertise in real-time analytics solutions deployed at some of the world's largest leading organizations. Thank you for joining us today, Mike.
Thank you, Jennifer. All right, super. So let's get started with today's session. As Jennifer pointed out, I'm going to highlight to you a little bit about our company. We're going to talk about specifically real-time applications as they apply to media organizations. And I'll highlight some real customer stories, folks that are using our technology to drive innovation, transformation, and revenue for their organization. So let's get into today's presentation. So first, we want to set the table and talk a little bit about what we are seeing from our customers and what's driving them to consider new technology solutions for their business. The first is the reality that there is a tremendous amount of growth in digital content. A lot of organizations are having to drive mixed content types to drive campaigns, to drive customer satisfaction and interest. And we are also seeing a proliferation of audience and device fragmentation. So folks are viewing content from their desktop at home, at the workplace, on a mobile device, on their smart televisions, etc. And all of these fragmented services provide challenges for organizations that want to identify where their audience is and what that experience that they're getting from a media consumption perspective. And the last is ensuring customer experience. The fact that the customer experience is an advantage for those organizations that can deliver superior streaming delivery as well as responding to conditions as they change. So digital transformation is at the heart of most of these transformations for media organizations. It has a lot to do with customer experience. It has, of course, elements of optimizing your spend so that you can ultimately drive revenue. We also see opportunities of analytics and services helping actually extend the revenue top line for the organization. So we're going to touch on all of these scenarios in terms of customer proof points and case studies as we go through today's presentation. So we feel that digital transformation can be enabled and pushed forward through new applications. And we call these new applications real-time applications. They adapt and respond to changing conditions, which is something that we're seeing throughout industries. It's not just a media and communication challenge. These applications require access to live, fresh data. They must be operational, which means they're available 24/7 with high performance. Many of them embed analytics inside them to be able to essentially sense and then respond to changing environments. And then they have to be scalable. The fact that during certain seasonalities or changes or the viral nature of some media content, the scale of the operation that needs to be able to respond to that change. So MemSQL is the database for real-time applications. It enables you to deliver operational analytics at scale. We do this by our ability to be able to ingest data very quickly. We have the essentially a live or streaming ingestion capability. You can also then concurrently run queries against that data as it comes in, as well as queries against historical data. It is an operational environment, which means it has full replication, high availability, recovery, etc., as well as it's auditable. So if you need to, for whatever reason, go back in time to replay or audit something, you can do that with the environment. And it has multi-model and data support. So that means if your application requires something that is ultimately best supported in maybe a key value style database environment, maybe you need the search capabilities that are part of your application, or maybe you have geospatial data or JSON data. These are all sort of the modern sort of requirements of today's applications, and that's the flexibility that MemSQL provides. We also see this convergence happening, which is converging your transactions and analytics into a single unified system. That's something that MemSQL, one of the very few databases that can do convergence at scale without impacting performance. We can store petabytes of data on disk. Many people confuse our name to think that we are just an in-memory database, but that's actually just one part of our solution. We do have a disk-based solution, which means you can equally store data on disk as well as in memory, and that gives you, again, a petabyte scale configuration at a low cost or affordable deployment architecture. We, again, can support transactions, which are ACID compliant, as well as support the large-scale analytic queries that you would expect of a data warehouse. So in short, it's sort of the equivalent of having a database and a data warehouse in one system. And then we offer the flexibility to run anywhere. So if you're in the cloud, if you're on premises, if you're multi-cloud, which means you want Azure as well as Amazon, these are all configurations that we can support. So I'll do a little bit of backdrop as to who we are as a company for those that are new to MemSQL, the organization. So our focus is enabling any company to become a real-time enterprise, and that's really at the foundation of digital transformation, the ability to take advantage of data as it's coming in and respond to it when it matters most. We are a top-ranked database as well as a data warehouse, most notably by Gartner. Our founders started from working on the SQL Server core database for a number of years. They moved on to Facebook, learned distributed systems and very large-scale data processing, took that knowledge and created MemSQL. You can see that the customers that we have here, we've got a number of large Fortune 100, 500, as well as digital sophisticated companies like, for example, Uber, Pinterest, and Pandora. We have been recognized by Gartner as being a very strong challenger in the data management solutions for analytics. That's essentially their data warehousing workload report. So you can see this placement that came out just recently. This is a quick high-level view of our architecture. So the ability for us to ingest data, live data, including streaming data, if that's your requirement, or just in many cases, we have a lot of customers that use change data capture. So they are taking logs from existing operational systems and shipping each transaction into the system as they land on that operational database. You can then put those transactions into MemSQL. We have a row and column store data format table type, which means that you can compress large amounts of data in the column store and get very fast, efficient queries. And then you can take advantage of the row store environment for real-time applications. So that's where you would see streaming ingestion landing into that environment, being able to achieve very high throughput. And all of this is distributed, which means you get very large concurrency. Over time, you can just add additional nodes and still get the scale and performance that your application requires. So now I'm going to transition a little bit into why customers choose MemSQL. Ultimately, it comes down to latency. We think latency holds your digital transformation initiatives. It may impact from a data loading perspective. You may be experiencing batch loading because of the architecture that you've chosen with your data warehouse or database technologies. We see also lengthy query processing. The fact that people that have to wait for their dashboard to load or their reports to run. In many organizations, they need to respond to changing conditions within the day or several times a day. Waiting on those queries to process is something that's going to impact that experience. And then the limited user access. We see lots of customers that must throttle or limit the number of users that have access to data, and that is ultimately sort of goes against the vision of allowing for more data-driven organizations and or data-driven customers. And so MemSQL is the answer to helping transform your legacy and or batch-oriented architecture into a high-performance architecture. And that comes down to our live loading support. We can do stream ingestion. We can do on-the-fly transformations from a multitude of sources. We deliver high, fast performance queries. We take advantage of SQL. We are a relational database, so we are not a NoSQL environment. We do support JSON, so if you have that as a data format, that's not a problem for us. But we're a relational database that loves and works with ANSI SQL. That gives us access to off-the-shelf dashboard tools, and ultimately it gives you that live data access that many customers love to use. And then lastly, our scalability. We have the distributed platform, so this gives you that ability to do multiple workloads in one platform. So I'm going to now transition and review a few of our customers and the applications that they leverage using MemSQL. These are sort of a couple categories of applications that we are seeing in the media space. It's around usually advertising analytics, the ability to do really live performance testing of your campaigns, and then ultimately determine a personalization strategy from those results. We're seeing customer experience programs becoming very important investment categories for content delivery, monitoring that content, and then being able to personalize that content over time. And then lastly, we see operational analytics becoming extremely important for the operators of these platforms to ensure that these media platforms are delivering the best experience to their customers and then being able to respond to changing conditions. And this is becoming obviously a very complex environment with the number of devices to support, the number of endpoints that are possible for customers. So these are sort of the three categories that we see. And so I'll spend a little bit of time on a couple example applications with our customers. So again, advertising analytics, media monitoring, content personalization, probably the easiest way for us to bucket these types of applications. So we'll start first with advertising and monitoring. So improving the ad experience, according to this report, is the #1 challenge facing the video industry. And one way to do that is monitoring and then responding to user interactions as they're happening across content channels as quickly as possible. So we're seeing in terms of challenges or in terms of advantages to advertising analytics is the ability to change and add engagement quickly or in real time. So the only best way to change that engagement is based on data and knowing what's being clicked on, what's the performance of a particular campaign, and this ultimately can drive new opportunities. The ability to do ad hoc analysis of a lot of data that's coming in very quickly is also something that a lot of our customer in the media space want. Slice and dice, detailed analysis, segmentation, etc. Ultimately, this is helping deliver a better sort of interactive experience for folks that are delivering or requiring advertising metrics. So this could be in-house or with partner communities. So our ability to deliver sophisticated SQL, because we are a relational database that provides ANSI SQL, you can do a number of advanced analytic techniques and get that performance and response against your live as well as your historical data. So that's that combination of what's happening right now as well as what happened to last week's or last month's or even last year's campaign. Because of our scalable footprint, the fact that you can simply add a node and get greater performance if you're seeing a surge in a particular campaign or event using standard industry hardware, the fact that that's something that's very easy to enable gives our customers an advantage. And lastly, our interoperability, the fact that you can essentially work with other off-the-shelf tools, the dashboarding tools, data science technologies, because we're ANSI SQL, we take advantage of JDBC and ODBC interfaces, and then the fact that you can now combine your infrastructure so that your real-time infrastructure and your classic data warehouse infrastructure can coexist and be one single unified system. Pandora is a great customer of ours. They're able to deliver an advertising analytics solution in real time using our technology. They were having challenges doing accurate analytics on a more frequent basis. So they were essentially doing analytics on a sort of weekly basis with their partners, and that was not giving their partners the advantage that they were looking for to respond in real time. So they looked to MemSQL to help accelerate their collection as well as analysis environment. And ultimately what they were looking for was just better, more accurate reporting, as well as providing an ad hoc query environment for intraday analysis. And so they were able to achieve this with MemSQL. They have a number of real-time inputs that go into MemSQL, and then they ultimately deliver what are sort of pre-canned as well as ad hoc reports in the form of dashboards. And so they love the fact that they have ANSI SQL to work with. They are able to now ingest as much data as possible as it comes in, including clickstream data, and the fact that they're taking advantage of industry standard hardware because their deployment is an on-prem configuration. Another example that we see more and more of is media monitoring and diagnostics. So all of this data that's being streamed to customers, you need to monitor it, understand if it's reaching its endpoint, as well as is it providing the best possible experience for the customers. So media monitoring ultimately is about finding and identifying issues when they come up as quickly as possible and then responding to those. You also want to be able to reduce operating costs. If an unplanned event occurs, if you can respond to that event quickly, your options of mitigating spend and costly chargebacks and other events that might take place with your partner community. And you want to be able to predict. So the fact that you can know if an event may result in an outage, can you predict that and then avoid it to sort of maintain the best service to your customer? So folks use MemSQL for these types of applications, typically because we have the ability to ingest data quickly. We have our live data ingestion, our architecture. We are fully scalable. So in the face of very large deployments, we see customers being able to maintain the performance that they require to manage their business. And our system is very highly available. It is, again, a memory to disk environment that is distributed. So the fact that you can have multiple zones, multiple clusters, being fault tolerant is something that's very important for these types of applications. MemSQL does work with Disney, the ABC television group, to deliver a best-in-class customer experience for their streaming media content. And so before MemSQL, they had challenges getting real-time visibility of their customer interactions of streaming content. They did also have a fair amount of challenges with duplicate data, streaming data, getting into their analytics platform, causing some inaccurate views and impressions of their customer interactions. They were not able to get the network carrier performance data, so that meant that some of the CDNs that they work with that accelerates the stream to the end customer, they didn't have sort of live visibility of that, and that impacted their ability to essentially create a great experience for their customers if something were to slow down, and or being able to talk to their partners about accelerating the delivery of a stream based on the data that they were able to store. So they chose MemSQL to ultimately deliver a best-in-class experience of streaming data, and this is based on live user interaction data. They also were able to essentially get a consolidated data view with much greater accuracy because they no longer had duplication of data. Also, duplication of data as it comes into the system, which is a challenge for streaming applications, as well as duplication of data for specialty data marts, specialty data warehouses that are used for a variety of teams. The scale-out architecture allowed for single system, single view of data, which is the ultimate goal for a proper analytics environment. A nice benefit, they were able to service or issue service alerts if a network performance degradation was occurring, so that gave customers an idea that, you know, Disney is aware of a performance degradation and that we're working to resolve it. That proactively allows for reducing the number of service calls. And what's very exciting is now they have a platform for building on new innovations. So they can now get to the place where they are able to build on-the-fly user navigation improvements to their application while users are interacting with the environment, as well as provide content recommendations. So this is an exciting path forward for their platform. And just a little bit of detail about the architecture. They are ingesting and analyzing tens of thousands of user interactions events per second. They're taking advantage of our deduplication service using our exactly once semantics. They do work with Amazon's Kinesis environment. They ingest all of that into MemSQL. And the fact that we are MySQL wire protocol compliant, they were able to work with a number of existing applications with very minimal sort of porting or rewriting VAPs. And they got to their requirements, which was millisecond response time on a number of queries that were important for their business. And they do ultimately do a lot of interactive analysis using Looker as their dashboarding environment of choice. Comcast also uses us for a similar scenario, but also for tracking user interactions of their set-top boxes. And so this is ultimately for them a customer service win, as well as a cost optimization and a partner sort of community benefit. So they had challenges in identifying and responding to media performance issues, as well as configuration issues at their end customer. So their customers are responsible for setting up and configuring their set-top boxes, and this is something that Comcast can proactively identify and help respond to. And so what we saw with Comcast is they had the ability to proactively send real-time events to their service agents to identify if a configuration of their set-top box was going to result in a problem. That was something that enabled not only a better customer service, but also mitigated costs that results in sending a technician out, dispatching a service call, etc. They were also able to track channel changes that were occurring on the box itself. So this helps them not only identify what's popular for advertising purposes, but also helps them from a content recommendation perspective. And so this data, it becomes very powerful for their not only operations, but also their marketing and campaign activities. A little bit into their technical architecture, they are taking advantage of course, their own network, but they do use the Flume and some Hadoop architecture That then lands into MemSQL, and then they do their real-time analysis from there. And again, this is a real-time monitoring and analytics solution using interactions that are occurring on the box within customers' homes. And just here, a little highlight on some of the technical metrics, taking some of their queries from 30 minutes to sub-second and ingesting roughly 300,000 events per second. So that gives you a little bit of a sense of their performance that they're able to achieve with MemSQL. All right, and this is the last application, and that will wrap up, and we'll open it up for a quick Q&A. Content personalization. This is ultimately the holy grail for media organizations that are able to personalize content based on known analytic results of existing engagement. So this is better targeting. This helps drive ultimately better revenue if you get your customers to maintain better engagement with your content. It improves customer satisfaction because of tailored content results in happier customers, and it also provides new revenue sources in terms of enabling richer, more tailored segmentation of your audience. And all of this results or requires a platform that can do live ingestion, very fast analytic queries, and using a series of interfaces that work with existing technologies such as SQL, for example. So Tapjoy is one of our customers that takes advantage of our platform for targeting and personalization. They are essentially an advertising technology company, and so what they were faced with before MemSQL was a database performance degradation. And so this was something that was causing their queries to slow down, and this was ultimately impacting not only their customers, but their operations. And so what they needed was a ACID compliant, scalable SQL platform. And so they went to MemSQL, and they were able to increase their efficiency of their ads because they were able to target those ads based on segments. And they were able to do this in real time, and this helped optimize their display ads using some predictive models with real-time data, which was a very sophisticated solution. And they were also able to quickly enable new models for some of their partner community to boost additional revenue for their partner ecosystem. And so just a little couple metrics about the scale of their architecture. They're running about 60,000 queries per second across their clusters. They're getting millisecond response time, which is very important in the mobile and online ad environment. And they can do this using a combination of Kafka and Spark. In this case, they're using Spark for some specific types of transformations and enrichment. And they are running on the Amazon platform. And just a few data points around their scale. Again, very high performance in terms of ingestion, query response time, and all of this was enabled using the MemSQL platform. So that sort of summarizes the sort of three applications, a few customer examples. I know we're now getting up on the end of the time, so we're going to now open it up for a quick Q&A, and then maybe Jen has some questions from the audience.
Thank you, Mike, for the presentation. So just a reminder, you may submit questions through the Q&A function located in the lower right side of your console, or tweet us using hashtag MemSQLWebcast. So we've got a couple questions that have come in. Can you tell us, do any customers support hundreds or say thousands of simultaneous dashboard users?
Yes, concurrency and access to our platform is very efficient. So we see customers, some of our largest customers are in the tens of thousands of concurrent users, dashboard interactions. And again, because of our distributed architecture, you can support a growing number of users. So you may start supporting a few hundred, and that may move to thousands. And so because you can just simply add additional nodes to your deployment, So we're seeing tens of thousands. It could theoretically go further than that, but that's the current sort of workload that we're supporting today.
Great. Another question. What is the largest deployment of MemSQL in terms of data under management?
Yeah, so some of our, in fact, I can't name them by name, but some of our media companies that have a large number of endpoints and customers, we're seeing near petabyte scale analytic workloads. So that's the column store, disk-based part of the product that is storing close to petabyte of data. Many of our customers are in the hundreds of terabytes. So it really depends on the application, but in terms of some of our larger deployments, we're seeing near to the petabyte scale, again, using our column store architecture with the disk compression.
Thanks, Mike. One last question. How do you license MemSQL?
Yeah, MemSQL is licensed by the amount of memory that's associated to the MemSQL architecture. So the memory footprint gives you the speed, the performance, and that's ultimately how we do it. It's based on an annual subscription. And so yeah, if there's further questions from there, we can always help you scale or price out or size your cluster.
Great. Thank you, Mike, for addressing the questions. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions today. So I want to thank you, Mike, for joining us, and thank each of you guys for attending today. Just a reminder, we're going to be sending a follow-up email with a link to today's recording and slides. And if you have any questions in the future, send us an email to team@memsql.com. So we invite you to check out some additional resources on our resources center, memsql.com/resources, or if you'd like to request a personalized demo of how MemSQL can help you, request a demo at memsql.com/demo. So again, thank you guys for participating and have a great remainder of the day.